Well, what a privilege to be here. And I was recalling a little earlier, it was 19 years ago that I presented my first ever conference paper, and I did it in another room in this building. It wasn't ARCOM, it was at another conference, but what a pleasure to be back, and what a pleasure to be given the privilege to speak to you all as your first keynote. I'm going to be followed by Jacqui, and in a way we're speaking together today. My session really is about rethinking our industry. How can we as an academic community shift the dial? And I'll use that phrase once or twice, I suspect. My position is that we are entering a new period of the type of expectations that we have on our community as researchers working in collaboration with the construction industry. And so actually it's time to change the way we do things. Today I'd like to talk to you about some policy changes. I'd like to talk to you about some funding that is going on right now. And I'd like to explore with you a little bit about how that's changing perceptions. I'm more than happy to debate this with you in the discussion section. Very happy to do that. And please forgive me a little, if you will, if my voice disappears occasionally. I have a little tickle in the throat. So thank you, ARCOM, for the opportunity to speak, as well as the responsibilities that Lloyd has set out that I have at UCL. I joined UCL a year ago or so, and I'm now Vice Dean for Research with the Bartlett faculty as well. I can assure you my life is not dull. So when we're thinking about construction in the UK, the biggest thing that is on the practitioners and policymakers' mind right now is this thing called the Transforming Construction Challenge. It is part of a wider policy vehicle, which is the UK Industrial Strategy, which is about pushing money into sectors, pushing money and effort into sectors, arguably that need it, but also that want the opportunity and have a wonderful opportunity to thrive and prosper and grow in an international context. You can see some of the themes within these challenges on the screen, and I'm sure you'll agree that they're all large, significant societal matters that we need to attend to. Privileged, then, we are that we are part of this. It is not always the case within UK policy that construction has a seat at the table. I'm sure many of us have lost count how many construction ministers and advisors we have had. They seem to change almost with the wind. This is not helpful for good quality research, engagement and collaboration. The policy environment, though, is highly relevant to us in research. And I know there are a number of you here today who are either benefiting from or involved with this programme. But I really want to just touch on a few things here to indicate to you the scale of what is going on, certainly in government thinking. Within that industrial strategy, changes are happening that will affect public sector procurement, construction programmes, but also expectations. This is all highly relevant to us as researchers. So if you can see the ministries and the departments on the right-hand side of the screen, these are all government departments that are buying buildings. Whether they be prisons, schools or hospitals, there is now a presumption towards essentially off-site construction, essentially modern methods of construction, perhaps more modular, more panelised construction. Now, some of you will realise that there are significant implications of such a decision. I have to say, not all policymakers realise the implications of such decisions. So part of this is our job to explore with policymakers and practitioners how we should be doing things, how we should be organising for this new environment. Importantly, construction in the mind of the policymaker is not separated from infrastructure. So if you think construction management and infrastructure are separate, don't. Yeah, I'm going to stop the sentence there actually, don't. Because that is not the way that government thinks. Okay, these are ultimately really connected agendas. So now maybe it's time for you to think beyond construction and think about infrastructure as well within your work. And this now ties towards a message from me today, which is very much about collaboration and reaching outside of your academic discipline and preference space. If we are to tackle then some persistent problems in society that our industry is expected to attend to, if we want more houses, more rail capacity, etc., the policy environment here is moving us in construction to look at more digital, more towards a manufacturing mindset, and more towards whole life performance outcomes. But not one or the other. We've got to try to tie them together. And let's face it, that really isn't easy. If we look at the enablers for those, being industry-led innovation, procurement and skills, then you can see how broad this agenda is and how many people could be potentially engaged with it. Now this slide is one that was created by the Challenge Director for Transforming Construction, Sam Stacey. And if you don't know Sam, he was the Innovation Director at Skanska, and I'm reasonably confident most of you will have heard of Skanska, the contractor, the major developer. This is Sam's interpretation of how we might move forward into a transformed industry. Digital, manufacturing, performance, keep those three in mind. And what you can see here, Jacqui, I think, is the agenda that ARCOM has been exploring for the last 10 years. Okay? This is our space, isn't it? This is our space, but it's changing. We've got new market entrants coming in wanting to manufacture housing in the UK. We've got new technologies coming in. We have much more automation coming towards us. If we don't change now, if we don't work with collaborators who are part of that change, believe you me, our industry is in trouble. So right now is the time to be doing the collaboration and working with companies to take your research agenda forward into this new era. It won't be easy, it isn't easy, but I think we have a really good part to play in this. And here are some voices that are being listened to. The first thing I would say is that none of them are academics. So from left to right, and you may have heard of some of them, left is Mark Farmer, the author of Modernise or Die. Now he is the person who has been really instigating the change towards more off-site construction, more modern methods of construction. He is still part of this conversation. In the middle is Anne Bentley, Global Chair of Ryder Levitt Bucknell, so she's essentially a surveyor by background. She's pressing on different modes of procurement and to change the procurement process. And then finally on the right-hand side, Jamie Johnson of Bridal Wood is the advocate for platform systems in construction. And in a nutshell, they're kind of like Lego systems, I suppose you might call them that. But these are the voices that are being listened to. They are some of the voices that are setting the agenda. And if you're not quite sure why I'm talking about policy so much, the policy sets the money for the research and investment areas that you will apply to for funding. That's why it's important. A term that you may not have heard of is very much in the lexicon that these sorts of people are starting to create. Pre-manufactured value. Now, I spoke at an event last week in Hong Kong, and there were a large assembled group of industrialists from housing, public sector, private sector businesses. And believe you me, they really switched on to this term, the idea of pre-manufactured value. And if the pointer works, oh, there it is, fantastic. Mark Farmer then was one of the people principally involved with dividing up the way we build into these categories. And what they're effectively saying is you've got to look for value improvements in every single one of these, even site process-led improvements. All right? So there is still a policy opportunity, an innovation opportunity all the way through here, but really everything. Did you see the language that's coming in? The use of the word manufacturing. And that's partly why Jan follows on from me today, because actually we need to engage with the manufacturing community if we are able to be able to understand this. And here is a little bit more of detail then of what Jamie Johnston is doing. He's talking about a manufacturer-led approach. There was a highly influential report published from University of Cambridge Centre for Digital Built Britain, which is about platforms. There are several videos on the internet. One I posted through my Twitter and LinkedIn just last week, which was an interview and a demonstration that the B1M produced. It's a 40-minute long video with Jamie and Mark Farmer illustrating what they mean. And the first thing I thought when I saw that video is that's brilliant, because I'm going to show that to first-year construction students to show them the conversation and what it means. If we are moving in the UK to this kind of approach, this has massive implications. It has implications for supply side, because of the materials that you would need to produce these. It has implications for construction side, because of the assembly process, and implications, of course, for performance and quality. I'm not saying that these are the right ways to go things. I'm saying all of this is a provocation to change. And that's where we came in. That's where we came into this story, because led by myself, Jennifer White, who is here with us, Andy Davis, and Joe Godsall, Paul Roosevelt at UCL as well, we won the Transforming Construction Network Plus. Now, I want you to look at that lovely pie chart. Think about all the wonderful projects that you could do. Maybe not with all of those millions, but maybe the 59 million. I'm afraid we didn't get 59 million to spend. Many of those will go to industry-led projects. We got 2 of those millions, so actually we are the only academic-led 2 of those millions. All right? It's a lot of pressure on us, but we are your gateway into all of that, essentially. Some of your universities will be involved in the Active Building Centre, which has many partners on it. But the Construction Innovation Hub has the lion's share of the funding, because they will do the largest demonstration works. For those of you who are you are postdocs or you are PhDs, the thermometer on the right-hand side is really important for you to understand if you are going to be doing collaborative R&D with industry. NASA in America developed the idea of technology readiness levels, which takes us all the way through from fundamental research to application and commercial purchase of a product, for example. Most of the government funding is sitting in the mid-levels, okay? Because they're looking for changes in the market very quickly. The research councils and our funding is the only funding which is sort of down towards this end a little bit. And this, you know, from my perspective, we have a challenge in the UK right now, because as we know the funding landscape is competitive, but as construction management researchers, please, we have to fight all the time to make sure that we keep the funding from the research councils to attend to these important issues. This is not all about industry-led R&D. So anytime you get the chance to fight for these issues, please do so, because we need to keep our place in this. But it's also really, really short-term funding. So let me just overview a little bit about what we're doing in the Network Plus. We have a website which has got everything on it, but you've got to think of the Network Plus as your gateway to all of the activity that's going on. We are here to try to help relate what industry policy is making happen through to the academic community and vice versa. That means the majority of our activities are about networking, they're about discussion, they're about helping newer researchers to learn and be part of this new policy environment. But we also have to ensure that we are kick-starting new areas of work to take us forward beyond the 2021 period. And it is no coincidence, I have to say, that we were given a short amount of time, a reasonably small amount of money, but we are looked after, interestingly, in Swindon by the Economic and Social Research Council. What does that tell you? They feel that the debates that we can have are not necessarily technological dominant. They are about systems, they are about social networks, they are clearly about the communities, the stakeholders, the actors in construction. That's why ESRC is looking after this funding. I'm going to touch on the fact that we have funding available, but I just wanted to flag up now, and this is the bit where I get to embarrass other people. So could the Network Plus team members all stand up, please, who are here, and I will introduce you. And I can see you all, because you can't hide. You're all sat together pretty much. Jan is going to speak after me, and then Jennifer White is in the middle, and flanked by Kel Jones on the right and Luigi Mosca on the left. So they will be here, Kel and Luigi are here and are presenting papers also. So if you have any other queries, Jennifer, you're speaking tomorrow, aren't you? So lots of opportunities to talk to us about this whole agenda. But it's this is the most difficult project and the most challenging project I've ever seen and I've ever had to work on. Because we need to involve lots of people. We need to bring in different disciplines, and we need to encourage people to get uncomfortable, to move out of the comfort zones, to work with people you've never worked with before, to start learning other disciplines' languages, because we've got to bring in and corral different expertise. And this shift the dial is absolutely core to it. This is not about incremental change at all. But I was delighted and shocked as well at the same time when we issued our first round for small projects, our first call. We have $1 million to give away in 2 calls, and we launched this last year. Second call coming soon. We thought we would get maybe 30 to 50 decent proposals. In the end, we got 77. I have to say, almost everybody that could have proposed something did, which was wonderful. 366 individuals, but look at that, 85 industry partners. It was not mandatory to have industry partners. So that tells you something about the community. It tells you that you are automatically working with industry partners. You are contextualized in your research. And I would really encourage you to remember that. Is the work that you do is contextual. And I put up here, there's more detail on our website, I put up here the titles of the 4 projects that were ultimately funded out of the 77. And I think you can see from the titles that they are starting to attend to some of the issues that I flagged up earlier. It covers healthcare, hospitals, there's aspects of AI, there's ICT in there. And I just want to illustrate one. Just one, not because it's the UCL one, but it was the one that surprised us the most, actually. The first one. You think, well, challenging space frontiers in hospitals. Space, yeah, okay, space planning, we all do that in buildings, it's facilities management. No, not that sort of space. That sort of space. Spacecraft design. And if you think about, and they actually have a co-investigator from space design, so they're bringing in completely different mindset on how you organise a building and how you organise space and people within it. Now, modular-wise, if you're going to send something into space, you've only got one shot. You've got to get it right, and that speaks to modular construction, doesn't it? So, just an illustration there of the sorts of things, the sorts of challenge that people have got into. The next call will be coming out soon. We have our major conference in September. And at that point, I think I've got some engagement stats, yeah. We set out to engage people in the idea of transforming an industry and what that meant. We could not have imagined how much engagement we would get so quickly. So we have a nice balance, I think, of people that are engaged. Huge numbers of tweet impressions, because these things are important. 1,500 people engaged directly in what we've been doing since last November, so it's not terribly long. But I think provoked partly by this, and the lovely thing here about this first webinar that we did, it was an academic webinar, and Jennifer chaired it, and we had input from Daniel and Wei. Wei Pan is here. Wei Pan, do stand up for a second so folks can see you, from Hong Kong U. Wei Pan came over today for ARCOM, and this was one of the best webinars and discussions I've ever witnessed. And we recorded it, and it's still on our website. So if you want to get into the debate of what business models need to do to change to address transformation, this is where it all started. And the conference, for me, was the big barometer. I've never seen this before. Within something like 24 hours, the conference was full. 150 people booked in, and now we have a waiting list of, I think, 200 people who want to attend as well. This is big news, certainly in the UK. And as I said, when I was over in Hong Kong last week, there is the same kind of debate going on there. This is a global agenda for the health of our industry, and it's so important to contribute to that. We're looking to support you. We're looking to support in different ways. So really what I'm trying to do today is give you a sense of what we're doing as researchers and academics to act cohesively and responsibly towards a policy level objective, draw funding towards our community, but garner and gather effort and interest in actually difficult to research subject area. I think there's lots of opportunities more to come. The built environment sector deal is coming, and I know that the senior industry folks are thinking about the next tranche of funding, and they want even more, which means we need to keep talking to industry. So if there was one message today, Chris, I guess as a conference organiser, I would be saying to you, please maintain your connections with industry. This will continue to be important as we move forward. And so I do think this is a new era for research and our community, so I'm really encouraging you to get involved. And I will stop at that point. Thank you very much.